Welcome back to my channel and my comic book shop. Sorry about the lights and the street noise and all that, and me eating. It's my lunch break again. But due to the fact that I work in my comic book shop, it has now enabled me to read more. So I finished American Gods. Yes, I just started it. It took me 2 days because, you know, you're sitting in here, customers come, customers go, you have hours of time to just chill and read. So I finished American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I love that book. I've always loved that big book. I started reading it because the new TV show on Stars is gonna come out. And I saw at Comic-Con, they released the trailer and it looks really dope, and I couldn't remember. It had been like years since I'd read it. So I sat back, read the book. Let's start with the tone. The tone of the book, perfect. Like mystical, like magic could happen at any moment. Something crazy could happen. I think it's best described that how Shadow, the main character, felt like at any moment he would just walk outside and meet a god or something like that. So I think the tone of that book's amazing, and of course Neil Gaiman is amazing. He's one of my favorite authors. He wrote the Sandman series, which I have a previous video about that I'll link below. But he wrote the Sandman comic book series, and those books are amazing. I suggest you read them if you like Neil Gaiman. I also suggest you read this book because it's essentially about, I was going to read the back, but I don't have the book on me. So it's essentially about this man Shadow who gets out of prison after being in prison for 3 years. He had a 6-year sentence, I believe, but he was released early for good behavior. The book opens with him in prison. It actually opens with a storm is coming. A storm is coming to America, and everyone can feel it coming. So he's in prison. He's about to get out, right? And then his girlfriend, his wife calls and is like, oh, me and Robbie, his best friend, are setting up a party for you, a surprise party. Don't forget it's a surprise for when you get out. So a couple days later, he had a feeling in his stomach that something bad was going to happen. Like his sentence was going to be extended, or something bad was going to happen. So like I think a day later, an officer came to get him and took him to the warden's office. It was the day the day before, I believe, that he was supposed to be released. And the warden came and was like, your wife has died. We're going to release you early. We're releasing you later on today. He had no reaction to this. She died in a car accident, blah, blah, blah. And then the story takes off from there. Traffic noise. Previously, his wife, who was a travel agent, gave him a confirmation code to get his plane ticket to fly to his hometown to be with her. So he just took that confirmation code to the airport, and they transferred the flight so then he could be on a sooner flight to go back home to Eagle Point. And he gets on the plane and he meets this mysterious man named Wednesday. There's a couple in between points for that, but essentially he meets Wednesday. Wednesday's like, you need a job. And he's like, nah, I got a job at home waiting for me. And he's like, no, you need a job. So he's like, just think about my offers. Basically offered him to be a security guard, errand boy, whatever. And he's like, no, I have a job. And then once he got home, got to the funeral, he realized that he no longer had a job because his best friend Robbie, who also owns the muscle farm where he was going to work, died in the same car crash. And so it goes on and on. He goes to the bar. Wednesday's there. Wednesday propositions him again. They make a deal. He drinks his honey mead 3 times, meaning that's like signing a contract 3 times, and then he meets a leprechaun. It sounds random. He meets a leprechaun. I forget the leprechaun's name. Something O'Malley. You know, typical Irish last name. And their adventures began. And now Wednesday presents himself as a god and blah, blah, blah. The book is basically about Wednesday trying to get all the old gods together because there's a storm coming, a war between the old gods and the new gods. The old gods are being forgotten, And the new gods want that to keep happening. Once a god is forgotten, then he no longer exists. He just fades into oblivion and dies. So the new gods want to take over. They think the old gods are encroaching on their whatever, their footing. I personally didn't understand why there needed to be a war, but whatever. So Wednesday's trying to herd up the old gods. The new gods are trying to kill off the old gods so they can take over, and America can be ruled by the god of TV. Media was her name. There's the electronical boy and all this. If you watch the preview, you'll see like representations of this. And then the old gods are like Wednesday, Mr. Nancy, who's a Nancy, the mischief god in Africa, Odin, bunch of stuff. And this is essentially about Shadow, a man outside of the gods, but also completely involved in what's going on. It's very interesting. The book is about 525 pages long. It's amazing. The stories are great. The characters are engrossing. The plot is very interesting. This is my third time reading it, and it was amazing as it was before. It's never boring. It was like I couldn't stop reading it, hence why I read it in a day and a half. I was just fucking going through it. I love that book. I recommend it to anybody, especially because the new Star show's coming out. I know they're going to expound more on the gods' backgrounds in the TV show, whereas where the book focused more on Shadow, the main character. So I think that might be interesting if you're into this book and you didn't know there's a TV show. It's going to be on Stars. This is not a sponsored video. It's going to be on Stars, and I heard that they're going to expound more on the gods, the old gods' backgrounds and stuff like that. So where the book doesn't expand, it'll expand on the old gods. So I mean, I read this book to coincide with the new show that is coming out, and I wanted you guys to hear my opinions on it because, you know, I have some followers that actually like what I say about books. It's not I don't give really in-depth reviews, but my general hypothesis of the book is it's fucking dope. Like, if you like mysticism, it's like Americana steeped in mysticism. That's the best way I can describe it. If America was dipped into a bowl of magic and pulled out and shook and thrown onto a book. That is American Gods. Neil Gaiman has a good way of making the ordinary and the magical merge into one really interesting story. It's like a skill. Like, these mundane towns, because it's not just about like certain parts of America. This book is a road trip book all the way. Mr. Wednesday and Shadow travel all over America, and it's not like LA or New York or Chicago. It's like little towns in between, middle America, the back roads. And I like that he weaves all these gods into one story, because it's not like the secular Jesus God pantheon is mentioned, which is interesting. It is mentioned, but it's not like the grounding of the story. He weaves in Native American gods, African gods, Norse gods, South Asian gods, like every god you can think of, Irish lore, everything from leprechauns to demons are in this book. And it seems, the way it's written, it's so commonplace. It's nice. The characters are round and not static. There isn't one static character. There isn't a character that just seems to be there for no reason. Every story is important, because he not only tells the story of Shadow, Mr. Wednesday, and, you know, that main plot line, but every other chapter, he talks about the people who came from their original companies, from their original countries, and brought these gods to America. They talk about the certain individuals that had these beliefs when they left their homelands, brought them and rooted their beliefs in America, which is what gave birth to the gods that are in this war. It's really good, and it's really thought out, and I'm really interested in how the show's going to interpret this book. I know Neil Gaiman has had a lot to do with the pre-production. I don't know I know he's had a lot to do with the script writing, not like Skip, but they did use him as an advisor, much like Game of Thrones used George R.R. Martin as an advisor for when they started the show, and that show's turned out fucking great. Of course, they took their own liberties and did whatever they want, like they should, because you don't ever want to watch a show that word for word does the book, but you hopefully they don't pull a True Blood and just go like, everything's fucked, you know? So I like that they had Neil Gaiman on as an advisor in the beginning, and I think they probably still use him now. So it might tread well with the book or be a good companion with the book. And obviously they're going to expand more on the characters, but it's a TV show. You can't just focus on one thing. It would become monotonous, just to stare at shadow all week, every other week. Like it'd be monotonous. So yeah, American Gods, really great book. I'll leave a link down below as where you can get it. You can probably get it on Audible too. This is not like a sponsored video, so don't worry, but you can get it. I'll leave the link for that below to Amazon or wherever. I'll probably link Amazon because that's the cheapest place you can get books, or somewhere. And yeah, the book I'm reading now, which goes with my last review, is the sequel to Rendezvous with Rama. I'm reading Rama II. Let me tell you, the tone of this book is completely different than the tone of Rendezvous with Rama. I can never say it right. Tone's completely different. Like, if that one's full of scientific awe and like amazement with the idea of other beings living in our universe, this one solely focuses on the crew. I am 50% into the book. I use percents because I'm reading it on my Kindle, and those of you who have a Kindle know that they don't tell you page numbers on the bottom. They just tell you you're like 30% in, whatever the hell that means. So I'm 52% in the book. I should be done by tomorrow to give you another review next week, but it's totally different. The tone is way darker. It's focused more on the crew than it is of the actual second ship. The second ship is like is a character in the book, but it's just something that moves action forward between the crew and the plot. So there's that. I am midway through, and that book is rough so far. It's well written. I think the tone is different because this is a book that Arthur C. Clarke wrote with Gentry Lee. It's a co-author job, so of course it's going to be completely different than if he wrote it by himself. I don't know how I feel about it so far. I just want you to know the tone's totally different. So yeah, look out for that review coming probably either next Wednesday, most likely next Wednesday, or this week if I find the time. Thank you once again for watching my videos. I hope you enjoyed my review of American Gods. It's an amazing book, and I hope you liked it. Like and subscribe if you like this video. Leave a comment if you've read American Gods and you're interested in the TV show, or what you think the TV show will be like. Are you excited for the TV show? Do you not want to watch it? It's a chocolate raisin. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video in my comic book shop. If you guys like to see video reviews once again about my favorite comic book of the week, I'd love to talk to you about my favorite book stories on that. If not, I'm gonna just keep the book reviews coming, since working in this store has enabled me to read a fuck ton of books quickly. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're watching this. And yeah, see you next time. See you next Wednesday.